Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to the chair, distinguished guests, organizers, and fellow scholars. It is a privilege to join you today for this conference on a theme that's timely and also transformative. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers who have brought us here together. And I have been listening to the presentations, which are very, very innovative and stimulating too. And that they have given us too much of fodder to think over how we can implement a part of it in our systems to serve the users better. Well, today, while I talk about the IKS, which is Indian Knowledge Systems, all of us understand that knowledge has always been the cornerstone of civilizational progress. Whether we think of clay tablets of Mesopotamia, to the palm leaf manuscripts of India, or to the scrolls of the Alexandria, they have actually been the repositories. They have come from that era to this to become the repositories from centuries over. Now, if we look at the Indian scenario, knowledge is not just the information. It is also Vidya from the Indian knowledge system perspective. And in this, libraries have a very, very key role to play to transform these knowledge systems into dynamic hubs of research and innovation. In the morning, somebody said co-creation through knowledge co-creation. Somebody creates, but you add value to that knowledge. Therefore, my agenda for today is tri-pronged. I will talk about the intellectual foundations of this Indian knowledge system and how they are relevant today. I will also talk about the strategies for building knowledge resources that integrate traditional and modern systems. And then I will also focus on transformation of libraries into innovation ecosystems that are driving learning, research, and innovation itself. Now, coming to the first part of it, which is the intellectual foundation. If you look at this IKS as the intellectual foundation, you will just find that it is a combination of assorted platter of various domains, from philosophy to Ayurveda to astronomy to mathematics to music and the arts. Recently while I was doing, every year I do Festival of Arts and I project one institution, the libraries of that institution, of course the other things also. And this year, the challenge was to project Bihar. I was very upset, But with this challenge, I have healed my perceptions about the Bihar, because Bihar, as you know, was the global epicenter of the learning, the spiritual, and the cultural heritage. While I was doing that, I just wanted to share one aspect. It's just a fraction. You have the astronomer and the mathematician, Aryabhatta. You have the Kautilya. You have the Panini, who has laid the foundation of the Sanskrit grammar. You have Mahakavi Bhanubhatta, who had marks the inception of the biographical writings. And there are so many. It's just one state I'm talking about. And if you look at the contemporary, let me just give you one example here when I talk about the assorted platter of subject domains that have evolved from Indian soil. If you look at the Sulba Sutra, for example, they reveal deep mathematical understanding centuries before former Euclidean geometry emerged elsewhere. Also, Chakra Samhita, which provides a sophisticated view of health as balance among body, mind, and environment, remarkably aligned with the present-day systems. Therefore, when we talk about the contemporary relevance, it has profound insights in today's global challenges. Whether you talk of the health and well-being, yoga and Ayurveda, they are part of the mainstream global wellness. You talk about the sustainability, you talk about traditional farming practices and water harvesting resources. You talk about architecture embodying eco-consciousness when you say, that this is all as per some system of design where the kitchen should face east, or the temple should be southwest or northwest direction. Okay, you should not have the burner near the window. So all these are factored in these design systems, and also the social innovation, which is Indian epistemologic emphasize inclusivity, community and ethics, offering alternatives to purely market-driven models. The third thing, which is very, very important for the survival of the IKS, and where the role of the librarians and information scientists come, is the preserving and reinterpreting IKS. And when I talk about the preserving and reinterpreting IKS, is that it is documentation, it is digitization, it is interpretation and application. So do not think digitized materials are just the static archives. As this is our challenge today, when we have to convert it into the living ecosystem, you have to change the documents to dialogue and preservation to participation. These two are very, very important components or contours of the IKS. Dialogue, documents to dialogue, preservation to participation. This is where our role is. But in order to perform that role, we have to groom ourselves to those technological advancements and keep on grooming, because new things crop up like fraction of a second, right? So these examples, whether you talk about whatever I've said, they tell us there is a key message that IKS is not the relics of the past, but they are living systems of inquiry and discovery, and they are highly relevant to the present day system. Also, it teaches us that knowledge is interconnected, which is a principle that resonates strongly with today's interdisciplinary world. This is the takeaway from this. Now, coming to the second part of it, building knowledge resources, it requires, when you talk about the building knowledge resources in 21st century, it requires a hybrid blending of bringing together the traditional with the modern. The repositories that we have created with the modern in digital ecosystems. There are three things. If you just look at, this is where the librarians have to play a pivotal role in, kind of being custodians, interpreters, and there were a lot of talk in the morning, interpreters and amplifiers of these knowledge systems, so-called knowledge systems. I'd like to just focus on three first and then give you some examples on this. If you look at the traditional resources, what are these traditional resources? They could be rare manuscripts in different languages. They could be oral traditions that pass on from one generation to another generation. Of course, we have also done some oral history programs, repositories we have created, and I will show you, if the time permits, I'll show you some of those. And also the local knowledge in agriculture, medicine, ecology, we say Neem does this, right? So what is that called? Neem is there, then Tulsi is there. So we have these stories. We might interpret them in a different fashion, but they are actually there. Now, when we blend them with the modern knowledge resources, that could be digital libraries, like you have many examples like National Digital Library, global knowledge networks like JSTOR, etc., and big data and AI-driven platforms, which basically from the library information point of view, we talk about the information discovery. Many of us have already factored this into our portals that we have created. Of course, we have to have continuously upgrading ourselves and upgrading our portals so that they remain relevant to our users. Now, the third thing is what I would like to focus on is the integrative strategies, which is digitization and preservation, scanning manuscripts and things like that, metadata standards in order to make the discrete data sets talk to each other, which is very, very important. And the third, cross-disciplinary archive. Let us facilitate the users to have a single window search across repositories and open access and collaboration is the mantra here. Now, giving you some examples, as I said that libraries have to become custodians and amplifiers of IKS. Now, let me just give you one example. You know, we were other day thinking we have a policy group, sectoral policy group on AI, which I am leading in my organization. And of course, I'm not an expert on that, but I'm just coordinating that. And there are so-called experts, AI experts from IITs and elsewhere. So it is a mixed group. So we are looking at the policy papers, and we were just discussing that imagine if we have AI enabled search tools that can transcribe and translate, which tools are already doing that. They are translating, transcribing. What is the accuracy rate is a debatable question, but at least at this level they are transcribing. Or blockchain systems that can verify the authenticity of digitized heritage collections. Now, these technologies allow libraries to move beyond catalogs and become intelligent gateways to knowledge. And I think for that, we need to groom ourselves to be able to do that at the moment, but also groom ourselves to sustain such systems in the long run. Now, these technologies are very important enablers for us to do work, and therefore we have to, because they bridge the urban-rural divide. Now, when I say the custodians and interpreters, I'll just give you a couple of examples at the institution that I'm working for right now. This is a digital portal which has got almost 17 different communities, which is both which is, if you just look at these communities, they are India collection. Somebody said legacy records in the morning. This is collection of legacy records, and which we have actually, taken charge from the, oh, it's not showing here? Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, I will say that, okay, it's not showing the website, right? So, but I can give you digilib.iscdaily.in. If you just go there, it's not showing that.
Okay.
Internet is not there?
Internet is there.
Okay. So there are 17 different, communities here. And what does these 17 different communities? It is legacy records, it is oral history, it is policy papers, there is multimedia, there is an audio collection, there is a video collection. There are, the lectures that take place. We have almost 4,000 events in a year, right? So all those, just see, it's showing. Okay, thank you. So just see, this is the Digilib portal, which I initiated during the COVID because we didn't have much work to do. So I just got the CSR, I was fortunate to get CSR funding for it, almost over 1 crore of rupees. So this is a very intensive, if you look, India collection, this is the legacy Sir Bilgrami collection, Himalayan Club collection, Waterski George, who was the eminent architect and who has helped in setting up the School of Planning and Architecture. His original notes are with us, and we have digitized, of course, annual lectures and all. So you could also get it. This is democratization of knowledge. Somebody talked about democratization of knowledge. You can just, if you have not listened to some, lecture, so you can just listen to that lecture here without, so you will have people speaking about, Vohraji is speaking, then Shivshankar Menon
frequent
is there
situations we face.
So this, I'm not going to talk about much because we don't have time. That is one. Now it has disabled the other part. Anyway, Just a second. Yeah, it has disabled the other part. Sorry, I will not show you much. Anyway, that's one. The other is Samhita, which is South Asian manuscript histories, right?
उसको slide show नहीं
I will do that. Don't worry. Okay. Now, the second is, I will not show that because it's creating problems. The second is Samhita. Okay. Second is Samhita, which is South Asian manuscript histories in traditional arts. It is the manuscripts that have been transported outside India. Of course, there was a Indian manuscript mission that is within India, but this is outside India, and we have got thousands of manuscripts. It is also available on IIC website. Okay. Now, the third is Bharat Ki Soch. This we have just started in August 2025. There is a think tank, Bharat Ki Soch Foundation and think tank, who are doing corporate social responsibility, and they're working on the Indian knowledge systems. And to begin with, IIC has taken up a project on health, nutrition, and well-being, and the education, and we have started building these. These are very, very important knowledge systems. Now, in order to do this, nobody will argue that we need digital tools and emerging technologies to support this, whether it is AI or, artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, and or machine learning and things like that to help. And we have to actually get acquainted with these. The third, in order to represent this in one slide, I have tried to design a conceptual framework that libraries can take cognizance of and get into this. Let me share a simple framework that ties this all together, the previous slide. And I think that the transformation...
sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. We have only 10 minutes left for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just try to finish that in 10 minutes. I think there are three major pillars. One is IKS itself, which is our foundational heritage. We have digital tools, which are our enablers for access and analysis, and we have the libraries, the spaces where they converge. And wherever they meet, they create new possibilities. Now, this is, if you just look at this image, you will just find it illustrates that the three contours, which is IKS, digital technologies, and libraries, when they converge, they give rise to knowledge resources. And these knowledge resources are fed into the research and innovation hubs, where libraries have the major role to act as an interpreter as well as an important pillar and conduit for this. Now, if I can give you a much simpler version of this conceptual model, this is another model which says there are number of circles which are overlapping each other, but there is a separate circle which is libraries, and which act as dynamic platform where heritage meets innovation, and it can pool resources from Indian knowledge systems and using digital tools as an enabler to create research facilities, foster research and innovation. And if the things that you see below the libraries is they can curate repositories. These are the functions of the libraries that they can do in such a system, which is curating repositories, annotated, creating annotated data sets, interdisciplinary research, acting as interdisciplinary research incubators, or facilitating entrepreneurship and innovation, being open access knowledge portals, which I have shown you a couple of them earlier, and create a platform where community engaged citizen science is facilitated. Now, this is where the democratization of, you are fostering the democratization of the knowledge. This transformation, we have already seen this happening, libraries acting at hubs. You can see many of the IITs, IIMs, ICERs, or NITs, they are already into this trade in the transformation. There are three things that I would like to say in this changing ecosystem. What will be the changing role of the libraries? They could evolve into innovation ecosystems, from just being custodians to curators, from leading spaces to learning and innovation spaces, and from individual learning to collaborative knowledge creation. But what will be the core function of these future libraries will be, they have to factor the knowledge creation part, which is developing thematic collections on IKS, research, facilitate research support, innovation, facilitation, and community engagement. And there are global cases, as I said, MIT Media Lab, British Library, digitization projects, or I talked about Samhita, Digilip, and Bharat Ki Soch as well. Now, we have touched upon harnessing technology for knowledge transformation, but since it's a very important enabler, so I'm reiterating. There are 4 contours here, but each of these contours facilitate preparation and processing, where you have artificial intelligence and blockchain, and natural language processing, and IoT smart infrastructure. I will not discuss this, but I'll go a little more because I have been given warning that I'm left with 6 or 7 minutes. To realize this vision, you need to have supportive policies and institutional investments. So if we have to achieve this transformation, we have to see, there are 4 national education policy is emphasizing integration of IKS with the digitization and research support, but you also have to fund libraries not only as archives, but as innovation engines. You have to train librarians as knowledge scientists fluent in data curation, analytics, and digital scholarship, and foster academic industry policy collaboration using library spaces as neutral creative grounds, and establish metadata standards, because that is very, very important. If we do not follow these international metadata standards, then the 2 discrete systems, we are not talking about a single system, we're talking about several discrete systems, they cannot talk to each other. So these steps will position libraries as active partners in national research and innovation agenda. Also, there are transformation must also include ethical, and they should be inclusive in nature, because as we digitize and automate, we must uphold ethics and inclusiveness also. Now, if you look at this, ethical and inclusive dimensions, it has digital divide, which is ensuring equitable access across rural and urban spaces. It has intellectual property, which is balancing open access with protection of indigenous knowledge. It has authenticity and plurality, which is avoiding mainstream or humanization of diverse IKS traditions. It has ethical use of AI, which is preventing bias, distortion, or cultural appropriation in digital knowledge representation. Having said that, the way forward is that you have 4 things, which is living knowledge repositories, research commons, innovation, incubation, and global leadership. So we have to evolve as living knowledge repositories. We must build research commons and have collaborative platforms. We must have innovation incubation, not at just the spaces where people just touch and read and issue documents. And we should also set examples for positioning Indian libraries as pioneers in blending IKS with cutting-edge science and technology. So my closing reflections, I would like to conclude by returning to where we began. We must, when we talk about the libraries, not only guardians of memory, but also architects of the future, because the future of libraries lies not in preserving only, as I said earlier. It is participation also. They have to think, create, and innovate. That means we have to migrate from just documents to the dialogue. And when we say that, we need to combine wisdom of Indian knowledge systems with the power of digital tools to create a living ecosystem where Libraries facilitate as spaces that inspire discovery, nurture creativity, and shape the knowledge economy of tomorrow. We have to act as dynamic engines of intellectual growth, cultural preservation, and innovation systems. And in doing so, we are not only safeguarding India's intellectual heritage, but also enabling to serve the beacon of knowledge for the world. Now, if you look at this, therefore, all the stakeholders need to work collaboratively together, as stakeholders are librarians, it could be researchers, it could be policymakers, it could be technologists, to build this vision of creating that living ecosystem. So if we do that, we can imagine libraries as not quite archives, but as workshop of ideas. They could be not as storehouse of the past, but as engines of transformation. Now, I will just leave you with this slide, which is very close to my heart. We are migrating from our traditional role, which was user in the life of the library, to a new normal where library in the life of user is very, very important. And that is the key message. If we do that, then knowledge is not going to be a static archive, but it's going to be a living force. And if we have to nurture it, libraries must become not just repositories of the past, but laboratories of the future. Thank you.